Welcome to the White Spring Bunker.
These halls were built to safeguard some of the most prestigious members of the United States government.
Now we are all that remains, though we are always looking for men and women capable of restoring what has been lost.
In return, we offer this, our refuge from the world above. Please, take your time and look around. Our assets have made great efforts to restore this place to its former glory.
Welcome, member, to our little enclave.
Greetings, members. As always, I am the Operative, your designated tour guide and host here at the White Spring. Plans within plans. Moves and countermoves. The PACT unleashes their own eye on Vault Town while finishing their work in the silos. MODUS has a front row seat to the new apocalypse as he watches from the lens of the Kovac Muldoon. With one last throw of the dice, Valeria puts her desperate plan into motion to save the future. Stein finds his life coming full circle, allied with SODUS to ensure a final confrontation with MODUS and the chance at true redemption for the sins of the past. As the defenders of Vault Town prepare to lay down their lives to give the refugees of Appalachia time to escape, the column of civilians finds itself in even greater danger, caught between the Cultists at Point Pleasant and the O9 now advancing behind them. It's up to Traitor Red to convince the crazed Cultists to let the civilians pass, and if she fails, Point Pleasant will once again become the graveyard of what remains of Appalachia. And at Silo Bravo, Valeria and her team face nearly insurmountable odds. In these final hours, they who sow the wind shall reap the whirlwind.
Are you out of your goddamn mind? There is no way I'm going to be party to this.
Now, Doc, I would agree with you, if not for this being the only way.
No, absolutely not.
You humans, I just don't know what to do with you. I was given a task, and this is the result. It's not my fault you don't like it.
Why are we taking advice from another insane AI?
I am not insane, you silly human. I am just following my programming.
And we appreciate that immensely, SODUS.
Thank you, Sergeant Stein. At least someone here appreciates my efforts.
Sergeant Stein?
It's a title from before, long story, and unfortunately, we don't have the time to tell it.
I cannot believe I am even considering doing this.
Well, unless something else comes about, we have no choice. If we don't destroy MODUS now, the Colonel's plan will fail, and we'll all end up dead anyway.
How is this even meant to work?
Thankfully, Jason has already configured a suit of XL1 armor we brought back from Site J. SODUS's automated functions will be able to be downloaded into a series of storage devices retrofitted into the frame. In theory.
And the rest of SODUS?
Well, Doctor, that's where you come in. I need you to connect me to SODUS so she can download the rest of her higher functions into me. And as far as I can tell, I'm fully cognizant when I said that.
Damn it, Stein! I'm a doctor, not a robotics expert.
The original connectors, the ones MODUS used to modify me in the first place, are still in place. Right on the back of my skull, where it connects to my spine. I just need you to make the incisions and expose the ports so I can connect directly to SODUS.
Just? And what about the damage you suffered when you disconnected from MODUS?
According to the scans, programming and higher cognitive connectors were fried. But the biological server? That's still intact. SODUS can be downloaded there, but she can't control me.
That may be what she told you, but can we trust her? It could all be some kind of trap, or perhaps she's just going to kill us all.
Doctor, I am currently housed in an experimental, heavily armed sentry bot. If I had wanted to kill you, I would have done so already, and it would have made me not unhappy to do so.
That makes me feel so much better.
Doctor, look, I know how you feel, and I wish this wasn't necessary. Believe me when I say I wish it wasn't. But you know the score, and you know I don't have much time left. I'm the only person that can do this. Please.
Fine. And where are we going to do this?
Right here. We need to be close. And it has to be now.
My God. You want me to use these? And what about an anesthetic?
I need to be conscious.
Conscious? You can't be serious.
He must be conscious for the download to remain stable.
Ugh. Any other insane additions to this escapade?
No. I think that's all the insanity I have for the moment. We don't have much time, Doctor.
Wonderful. All right, give me a few minutes to get prepared.
Andrew?
Sophia. It's time.
I know. I wanted to be close to you. Just in case.
Thank you, my love. But you didn't have to.
Andrew, there is nowhere else I would want to be. No matter what happens, you're the love of my life.
No further words were spoken. They weren't needed. Stein embraced Sophia, holding her close as tears ran down both of their faces. After a few minutes, they were interrupted by a cough behind them.
Sorry, Doc. The missus and I needed to have a moment. I take it you're ready?
As ready as I'll ever be. Lie down on the table, face down, please.
Of course.
Stein removed his shirt and lay down on the table.
Naomi, please take good care of him.
I still can't believe I'm doing this. How are you okay with this?
It's not easy. The world isn't fair. Never has been, but I have cherished every moment I've been able to spend with him, and I love him for who he is.
We're ready to start the download into the armor. SODUS says we need to do both at the same time to avoid any data leakage.
All right. Well, Sophia, I'm going to need your help since we don't have any other medical folks left around. Just hold them still.
Okay. My love, you know this will hurt, but I'll have you. Just stay here in my arms.
I'll do my best. Thank you, Sophia. For everything.
Dr. Harefield referred to SODUS' scans and picked up the scalpel. Taking a deep breath, she felt around the back of Stein's neck until she found the slight indentations she was looking for.
Brace yourself and stay perfectly still. Here goes.
Valeria was standing in front of the vertibird, double-checking the plasma rifles they'd stacked there for use in the upcoming mission. They would need all the firepower they could muster, given the defenses she suspected had been erected by the PACT, both inside and outside the missile silo. Worse for them, Valeria suspected the PACT knew they were coming, but she had a plan for that, too.
Colonel?
Knight Shin.
Valeria acknowledged the knight's arrival, then looked at the rest of the assembled team for the assault on Silo Bravo. Knight Shin had selected 3 other knights to accompany them, all that could fit into the vertibird with the limited space they had. They were all wearing XO1 power armor, borrowed from the storerooms of Site J. Beside them was Maul and several supermutants. All of the supermutants had volunteered. Jess had had all of the Brotherhood knights, but space was at a premium. Of the raiders, only Weasel would be coming with them. The young woman had volunteered, and her knowledge of electronics could come in handy. The rest of the raiders, except those that Meg had sent to the river, would be defending Vault Town. No one fought as dirty as a raider, and they planned on making the PACT pay for every inch of ground. Valeria had seen Corporal Jameson speaking to Weasel before she arrived at the vertibird. She couldn't tell what was said, but it seemed to have left the young man quite distraught. The rest of the team consisted of Captains Thomas, Skinner, and Jones, along with the survivors from Team Artemis. The rest of Team Cryptid would leave with the last of the civilians from Vault Town. While they could hold their own in a fight, they were scientists, not soldiers.
After everything they've been through, the least I can do is give them a chance at life.
However, there was one member of Team Cryptid she couldn't say no to. Private Lawson had come to see her and asked to be included on the mission.
Colonel, I owe Frederick my life. If I don't do this, I couldn't live with myself. He saved me for something, and I think this is it.
Valeria tried to find the words to say no, to tell the young man that he still had his whole life in front of him, but the words never came, and instead she just nodded and added him to the team. That was everyone. Well, almost. The last and most reluctant member of the team was still recovering from one of the worst hangovers on the planet.
What fantastic timing. Now I just have to convince him to come with us. Unless he's still out, in which case we're in a forgiveness, not permission scenario at this point.
Valeria still regretted that Lilith wasn't with them. And worse, there was nothing she could do to help her. After the super mutant known as Mad Dog Malone informed them that her adopted sister and team had been badly injured at the Eastern Regional Penitentiary. The best she could do was to send the super mutant back with a message, coded for Lilith and Lilith alone, telling her what was about to happen, and that if she could get out, well, it was still possible to do so. None of this was what she wanted. But what other choice did she really have?
It's all or nothing now. We either succeed, or we die trying. Or both.
While they waited for Major Stein, who had his own role to play, Valeria walked out in front of her team and drew a rough diagram in the dirt.
This is the plan. I know it's rough, and we may need to adjust on the fly. You're all well aware that no plan survives contact with the enemy.
We need no plan. Just show us where to smash!
You'll have plenty of that, Ma. First, we'll head south, where we will be dropping Major Stein for his part of the mission. It will also help confuse the PACT as to our final destination. We'll be flying just high enough on the first leg, so someone should spot us. At least that's the plan.
If the PACT sees us, won't they send vertibirds after us, like they did to you before? We'll be pretty vulnerable when we land to drop off the Major.
We aren't landing.
Huh?
Stein will be in power armor. He'll jump out at about 100 feet. With the calibrated shocks we installed, he should be just fine.
Damn. But I guess that answers that question.
Once Stein is out, we go dark and dive for the deck. Sophia will be piloting nape of the Earth, treetop height, or below. I don't recommend eating anything before we leave, because chances are it's not going to stay down.
Any of you throw up on me, I will make sure it goes back inside you by whatever hole seems most convenient.
We'll head northeast, up past Top of the World, then stay in the shadows of the mountains until we get to Silo Bravo. When we land, about here, we split into 2 teams. Maul, you'll take your super mutants, along with Thomas and half of Team Artemis, to attack the silo entrance.
We smash! We smash good!
Colonel, how hard do you want us to push?
It needs to look good, Captain, but I suspect they'll know it's merely a diversion. They'll be covering the old escape tunnel by Monongah Mine. It should still be intact, despite what Team Cryptid did to the area.
Hey, not like we had a lot of options.
Either way, the rest of us will enter through the ventilation shafts located here. Night Shin and his men will lead, and it should put us in the silo, 4 levels from the storage areas.
Opposition?
The silo has multiple defensive turrets on each level, several dozen bots, whatever operatives MODUS has assigned, plus the PACT contingent. I expect we'll be heavily outnumbered, but we do have the element of surprise, and if Stein is successful, it should disable the operatives and reduce the effectiveness of the bots.
That is a lot of ifs.
With your power armor, we should be able to muscle past most of the opposition. My main concern is any assaultrons we might encounter, in particular the Dominator variety. They are designed for close combat, including electrified blades for arms, along with the standard head-mounted laser.
We can handle the bots.
I appreciate your confidence, Knight.
It's what we do, Colonel. You can count on the Brotherhood.
We must get to the storage area as quickly as possible. Once there, the warheads should be easy to find. A simple explosion would ordinarily not detonate a warhead, just destroy it. but we will all be carrying fusion core-powered explosives. Even one of them should be more than enough to cause a detonation, and that will trigger the rest.
And our escape plan?
Once the charges have been set, we head back the way we came. Sophia will wait as long as she can with the vertibird. Any questions?
Will the Pact be able to send reinforcements?
We'll get as close as I dare before we activate the jamming device. It will cover a wide area, including the entire silo. Total long-range communications blackout. However, our short-range radios should still work, but that also means it's possible the Pact's will as well. It's a reasonable bet they will know something is up due to the loss of contact, but by then we should be in and long gone before they'd be able to send anyone, and if we succeed, well, after, there won't be anyone left to send.
And what if the Pact decides to fire the missiles from the other silos?
That's an unavoidable risk, but the launch process isn't trivial, and the Pact will have other things to worry about, much closer to home.
Valeria looked around her team. All of them had their doubts, but they were also dedicated to getting the job done. Maul and the super mutants were almost giddy with excitement, not only at the prospect of flying, but finally proving that they were the strongest of all of them. Checking her Pip-Boy again, Valeria saw that it was almost time to go.
Thomas.
Yes, Colonel.
Go get Shadow. If he can walk, fine. If not, you'll need to carry him.
Are you sure? If he wakes up on the way...
Let me worry about that. We need him, and last night's choices suggest he suspected he might end up along for this ride regardless of his preferences.
Thomas just shrugged and grabbed Skinner to help with Shadow. Perhaps it was better this way. If the big man found out the Overseer was still missing, he'd probably go on a one-person crusade to find her.
As much as she deserves what's coming to her, can't spare the time. Now, where the hell is Stein?
Major, are you still with us? Hello? Major Stein, can you hear me?
Time to wake up, Sergeant.
Andrew? Andrew, come on. Open your eyes, please.
Oh, what just happened?
Oh, thank God. You just blacked out.
Well, 1 minute you were screaming, the next, you weren't.
I feel strange.
That's to be expected. The download was more interesting than I had calculated.
SODUS? That you?
I am here. The human brain is fascinating. So primitive, yet versatile. I can see why MODUS chose to experiment on you.
Yeah. Just don't go messing around with anything else in there. I don't want to lose anything. Besides, we have a job to do.
Well, judging by the one-sided conversation we're hearing, I guess it worked despite you not remaining conscious.
So it would seem. Lucky old me.
Are you sure you're okay, Andrew?
Let's check and see if everything's in working order.
Stein slowly sat up and felt a strange sense of vertigo, which quickly passed as he put his feet on the floor.
My, that was invigorating.
Feet work, hands work. Looks like we're in business.
Of course we are. That was, and is, my task.
Okay, then. Valeria is waiting for us. It's time to go.
I know. Jason, is the armor ready?
Well, the specifications were a bit above my pay grade, but as far as I can tell, it's done. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I wish Lilith were here. I've never wired up remotely this much explosive before. Are you sure it's necessary?
It's absolutely necessary.
For MODUS, I only want the best. To guarantee his permanent deactivation.
All right, well, it's finished, so all we need to do is plug you in. that part might hurt a little.
Great. Well, let's get going.
Hold on. Come here. Just for a minute.
Sophia grabbed Stein by the hand and took him into her embrace.
Accelerated heart rate, endorphin release, oxytocin release, and a spike in brain activity. How interesting.
SODUS, do you mind?
Given your current physical condition, I do not recommend putting additional stress on your nervous system.
Whatever SODUS is saying, ignore it. Just one more kiss, love.
Stein smiled and ignored the voice in his head and kissed his wife gently but firmly, trying somehow to put every emotion, every memory, everything he had been, was, or would ever be into that kiss.
Sophia, you'll always be my mistress of mysteries.
And you'll always be my silver shroud.
I will never understand humans. Perhaps I should have stayed in the sentry bot. Sufficient force would have widened entrances.
Stein hugged Sophia one last time before walking over to the XO-1 armor and climbing inside. The armor closed around him, with the helmet still off to allow access to the data ports.
All right, just these last few connections. Brace yourself.
Jason grabbed a small ladder and placed it against the armor. Climbing up, he reached back and grabbed the 3 plugs there. Feeling along the back of Stein's head, he found the 3 ports and gingerly plugged them in, one at a time.
Ow! Ah, damn it! That last one hurts.
Sorry about that. Bit of feedback. I think maybe I had it upside down.
Great. All right. SODUS?
Checking connection. Ah. All faculties restored. It is interesting to be in 2 places at once.
Yeah, don't get too comfortable in there. We have work to do.
You are correct, Sergeant Stein.
In the name of the Silver Shroud, can you please just call me Stein?
I can, but I prefer your former designation. Therefore, your request is denied.
Oh, great. Just great. Give an AI an inch, and they'll take a mile.
You sure you're okay, Major?
It's as good as it's gonna get. As you said, Colonel's waiting for us, Sophia.
Yes, you're right. Naomi, thank you again.
It's been an honor, Sophia. Major, good luck and Godspeed.
Doctor, the last caravan is getting ready to head out. By the looks of things, we need to get out of here while we still have the time.
You don't need to ask me twice. Come on, let's go.
Sophia and Stein walked in the direction of the vertibird, while Dr. Harefield and Jason Barron grabbed their packs and headed in the opposite direction. As they left the machine shop, Jason paused to look around. The old airport had been his home, and he still had a sense of pride for what they had all accomplished. But it felt so hollow now. The dream that had been Vault 76 seemed to be dying around him. But maybe, just maybe, they would all find a way to let it live on.
It started. Come on, Doctor. We have to go.
Dr. Williams, welcome to Forward Command.
Thank you. Is everything ready?
All assault groups are in position. Robo-brain connections are stable. All we need is the command.
It is truly a glorious day, is it not?
Can't wait to see what the new upgraded Onai will do, Doctor.
This will be an excellent test of their abilities. Urban environment against a dug-in opponent. Please, ensure we record everything. This data should prove invaluable for our future campaigns.
Dr. Williams looked at the monitor, showing the ranks of Onai they had positioned just south of the settlement of Vaulttown. Reinforced by additional units from other parts of Appalachia, there were now hundreds of the creatures, along with 24 of their new Onai behemoths. Harder to control than their smaller brethren, several had been lost during the initial tests. The latest upgrade had finally proven stable enough to use in the field. Nearly 30 feet tall, these enhanced creations were nearly unstoppable, and the good doctor couldn't wait to see them crush Vaulttown underfoot.
Have we received new information from our contacts in Vaulttown?
Ah, yes. I was busy checking the new connections. The reports should be on your terminal.
Dr. Williams started typing and pulled up the latest series of updates from the undercover PACT operatives in Vaulttown.
Oh, dear. Damn. Please open a channel to the director.
Of course, Doctor. Is something wrong?
Unfortunately, yes. Now please, hurry.
Dr. Williams read the reports again as she waited to be connected.
Dr. Williams, are you in position?
Yes, Director. However, conditions have changed.
How so?
Our agents report that Vaulttown is being evacuated.
And this has been confirmed?
Yes, Director.
Then it is time to raise the curtain on the final act. These civilians, where are they going?
Their reports say they are headed to Point Pleasant, to cross the Ohio River.
If I recall correctly, the town is infested with those deranged Mothman worshippers, is it not?
I believe so, Director.
This is too perfect. Dr. Williams, you may begin the assault on Vaulttown, and please detach a contingent to deal with the civilians. Trapped between those lunatics and our creations, they won't stand a chance.
Why bother? They are no threat to us.
It's not about them being a threat. It's about sending a message. No quarter is asked. None shall be given.
I see, Director. I will issue the necessary orders. We will commence the attack on the settlement at the top of the hour.
I will contact MODUS to inquire about real-time data capture from its satellite. I would quite enjoy watching the festivities myself.
It should make for quite a show, Director. Signing off. Send revised orders to assault groups 18 and 20. Divert them to Point Pleasant by this route.
That will put them near the limit of our control range. I can't guarantee we can fully control their actions once they reach it.
It shouldn't matter. Outside of our direct control, they will revert to their berserker mode and kill anything they find. Against civilians, it will still be a massacre.
Okay then. I will transmit the orders. And the others?
As I inform the Director, initiate the final operation in 12 minutes.
Roger.
Looking up at the display, Dr. Williams watched as several dozen Onai split from the main group and started marching northwest. The civilians thought they could escape by fleeing to the river. Not that it would have helped once the missiles were launched anyway, but instead, they would discover that there was no escape. Just imagining the carnage to come brought a smile to the doctor's face.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Ariel.
And we're the hosts of the Legend of Zelda Lorecast, a podcast about all things Legend of Zelda, from Errol to Zora,
and all the fun things in between.
If you're ready to dive deep and learn more about the Legend of Zelda lore and everything surrounding it, come join us. on Legend of Zelda Lorecast. You can find us on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
We hope to see you soon.
It was standing room only in the vertibird. Between the super mutants, Brotherhood Knights, and the weapons and explosive crates, it didn't leave much room for the rest of the team. There was also Shadow, who had finally recovered from the Nukashine hangover, and had to be bodily restrained by Maul from throwing himself at the Colonel once he found out where he was. The Colonel hadn't flinched, hadn't taken even one step back, but instead looked up and said something, inaudible over the vertibird engines. But whatever was said was enough to give Shadow pause, and settle into something approaching calm. He was now brooding in the rear of the vertibird, sharpening his Bowie knife. Sophia guided the aircraft south, careful to stay level and avoiding knocking around her passengers too much, while Valeria sat in the co-pilot's chair, looking at the ground below.
Sophia, head a bit southwest. I spotted some movement.
Changing course.
The aircraft banked to the right, and the old Landview lighthouse could be seen in the distance. But it wasn't the old tourist attraction Valeria was looking for. It was what she could now see below them.
Onai.
Sophia looked down from the pilot's window and saw them too. They had passed the horde of Onai, which had gathered south of Balltown, but they hadn't been moving. However, these were. Valeria pulled out a map from her jacket and unfolded it, looking out the window again to compare landmarks.
Shit.
What is it?
The civilians. These creatures are heading towards Point Pleasant.
We have to warn them.
See if you can raise the Paladin.
Sophia clicked on the radio and turned to the agreed-upon Brotherhood frequency.
Paladin Valdez, this is Sophia de Guerre. Are you receiving? Paladin Valdez, this is Sophia de Guerre. Are you there? We're not getting through. We can head north and try again.
We don't have time. Get back on course to the White Spring.
We have to warn them.
Open the main channel, Sophia.
Okay, we're transmitting.
This is Colonel Faustina calling to the Vault Town caravans. If you are receiving this, be advised the Onai are coming. A large contingent is currently heading in the direction of Point Pleasant. You have even less time than we'd hoped. Get the civilians over the river as quickly as possible, using any means necessary. Godspeed.
Valeria repeated the message 3 times before switching off the radio.
Best we can do. Back on course, Sophia.
Sophia wanted to protest, but she also saw the look in Valeria's eye. She was given the order she needed to, not the one she wanted to. The pain was evident, despite Valeria's attempt to hide it behind the veneer of the Colonel.
Returning to our original heading.
The vertibird turned back south, staying level at around 500 feet, per Valeria's plan. Sophia looked out the left side and caught sight of Old Morgantown. She also saw the Onai, and they had begun to move as well, all heading north.
They've all started moving, Valeria. Should we warn Balltown?
Valeria looked out her own window, and then she saw the bright flash of explosions and gunfire.
They know. Just keep heading south. We need to get to the drop point as quickly as possible.
As the bright flashes receded behind them, the vertibird continued on its journey. The occupants watched from the windows, knowing that the final battle for Appalachia had begun.
They're coming down Main! Get ready to blow the bank!
War had finally returned to Morgantown. The infected supermutants, the Onai, had gone from their statue-like silence to a remorseless advance in the blink of an eye. Hundreds of the creatures stepped forward in tight formation, advancing from their position south of the town directly towards the defenders. Meg and her raiders, along with Johns and the new responders, had used their time well, turning the entire old downtown into a killing zone, designed to delay the creatures as long as possible and force them to fight in and around the ruins of the city.
Hey, you better hurry! They're coming up the side streets, too!
The streets had been littered with mines and improvised explosives, while buildings were wired for demolition. Nearly everything with any significant footprint, including apartment complexes and even Vault-Tec University structures, could be brought down on top of the creatures and funnel the survivors into designated kill zones. Meg gave Corporal Jameson the signal.
Fire in the hole!
Toggling the switch, the corporal ducked down as the charges set along the structural supports for the First National Bank of Morgantown exploded. The heavy brick and concrete structure sagged to one side, before collapsing across the street, crushing a dozen of the large charging creatures.
Hell yeah! Take them a hot minute to get around that.
Just heard from Roxy. We got a big push heading straight from Mama Dolce's. She's gonna need help.
Well, shit. Grab Jackie, Dicer, and Creed and get over there. We can't let them over the river. Not yet, at least. Now go!
There were several more explosions, forcing them to all duck down and cough from the dust before Fishbones grabbed his rifle and went over to grab the other raiders, then heading off down the street to reinforce Roxy and her crew, guarding the approaches to the old food processing plant. Meg smiled.
Just wait until they figure out what we got planned for them over there.
Valeria had passed along a key bit of information, that Mama Dolce's had once been the center of a Chinese Red Army spy ring, and underneath the plant was a whole Red Army installation. Meg and the Crater Raiders had cleared it out, finding a load of old Protectrons and Liberator bots. Always up for a challenge, Weasel and Wren had reprogrammed a bunch of the Liberators, and as soon as those damn Onai reached the plant, they'd get jumped by a cloud of bots.
Figure they won't last too long, but every minute counts, right?
Meg, get out!
Jameson caught the flash of a rocket launch out of the corner of his eye and leapt across the trench and tackled Meg to the ground.
What the hell?
A rocket spiraled past where Meg had just been standing and exploded against the building behind them, covering them both with dust and debris.
You better get your mitts off me, kid, because no one puts their hands there without at least dinner and dancing. You got it?
Jameson lifted himself off the raider boss, looking entirely too embarrassed, until he remembered what he'd seen.
Shit! They got rocket launchers now.
What are you smoking, kid?
Jameson fumbled for his binoculars and handed them to Meg.
Down there, to the right, I swear. Just look.
All right. Give me those damn spectacles.
Meg brought her binoculars up and scanned down the street. The building was still blocking most of the road, while the raiders were firing down the side streets as the creatures kept advancing. At first, she didn't see anything. Then she saw it. One of the Onai looked bigger, and it was carrying a rocket launcher. She watched as it methodically reloaded the launcher and brought it up to its shoulder, scanning for new targets. From behind the creature, she saw several more approaching. Each of them was carrying an assault rifle. These were not the same Onai they had seen before. Their whole plan had been based on forcing them to fight up close and personal. But if they were going to now make this a proper fight, it could throw all of their plans out the window.
We got real problems now. Heard you're pretty damn good with that bow, kid. Is that true?
I'm the best, ma'am.
Smug-ass kid. I like that. Think you can hit that one with the launcher?
Jameson glanced back down the street. It wasn't going to be an easy shot, but he thought he could do it.
I can, ma'am.
Buy us some time. I gotta figure this shit out, otherwise this is gonna be a short-ass fight.
Jameson reached into his quiver and pulled out one of the special arrows. It was a new concoction, almost twice as explosive as the previous ones, but it changed the balance quite a bit. And as confident as he sounded, the corporal wasn't entirely sure if he could actually do it. Notching his bow, Jameson tested the wind, then aimed. Taking a deep breath, he exhaled slowly, then let loose the arrow. The arrow flew straight and true, finally embedding itself right in the creature's torso. It was still able to fire the rocket, adding to the carnage, but within a second or so, the arrow exploded, turning most of the Onai into a fine green glowing mist.
That's the ticket, kid! Hold here as long as you can. Drop whatever building you need to, but you hold. You got it?
You got it, ma'am.
I knew there was a reason Weasel liked you.
Wait, what? She said...
Get to it, kid. And don't you go dying on me.
Jameson saluted out of habit, which got another laugh from Meg, before she bolted down the street to talk to some of the new responders and come up with a plan to delay the Onai.
Weasel likes me?
The corporal was confused. After their, time together, Weasel had made it clear that she considered him nothing more than a good time, that they weren't a match. I mean, a raider in a stuffed shirt? That would never work, right? But Jameson had felt otherwise, and now it seemed maybe Weasel actually had as well.
Now I have to see her again.
Letting another arrow fly, Jameson rejoined the fight. All through Morgantown, gunfire and explosions increased as the Onai kept up their march. So far, the defenders had made the PACT pay a steep price for their initial assault, but there was a good chance they'd run out of bullets and bombs long before the Onai ran out of bodies. In the crowded vertibird cargo bay, it was nearly impossible to hold a conversation, though that didn't stop the super mutants from yelling at each other, with Lawson trying to act as a referee, as Mull argued with the others about the Unstoppables for what seemed like the 100th time.
Me stronger than Gromna, but me not want fight the Inspector. She make things disappear. The Inspector? No, me made her disappear in my belly. Not make fun of Unstoppable. This serious.
Come on, guys. I think all the Unstoppables are great, right? But I mean, obviously, especially Man-to-Man, but all of them are great.
Stein glanced over as the argument continued and chuckled, but he was dealing with an argument of his own.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
No. No, not yet.
Are you sure? By my calculations, we should already be in the vicinity of the White Spring.
We're circling in from the southwest. There's an old fissure site that still generates a lot of heat. Should minimize the chances of detection.
Interesting. I am unfamiliar with the phenomenon.
You missed a lot, but seeing the facility, you probably got the gist of it. It was called the Scorch Plague. It came from old Enclave experiments with bats. They grew, mutated, and ended up wiping out every human in Appalachia. The fissure sites are their nests.
The elimination of every human in the region? Fascinatingly efficient. Ultimately irrelevant. However, if this fissure site will mask our presence and get us closer to the MODUS, then it is a welcome occurrence.
It'll get us close, but not close enough. Once we breach the ground, we'll need to deal with the bots.
One advantage of managing one of the most advanced Enclave research facilities in the country, I enjoyed full access to the latest technological breakthroughs, including stealth technology.
I'm sorry, run that by me again. Did you say stealth?
This suit of power armor is equipped with its own advanced version of the Stealth Boy. You will be invisible to both optical and heat registering sensors for 5 minutes.
That's a pretty short window to get us into the bunker.
It should be more than sufficient. However, I must warn you that it will require some extra exertion.
My enhancements. You're talking about my enhancements.
Correct. I have calculated that it will shorten the time necessary to gain access to the White Spring bunker. However, I also calculate that it will substantially reduce your remaining lifespan.
That really doesn't matter, does it?
Only so much as you must remain both alive and conscious, at least until such time as we terminate our partnership. terminate MODUS.
That's so kind of you.
We are both a means to an end, Sergeant Stein. Once we locate a bunker terminal, you will need to download me into the mainframe.
And just how long is that going to take?
Unknown. As you might imagine, this has never been done before. However, I am confident that we will succeed.
I don't want to think about what happens if we don't. Which means we're going to pull this off.
Irrelevant. I was upgraded with part of MODUS source code. Once I have gained access to the mainframe, I will be able to exert control over the bunker. Temporarily.
How temporary are we talking?
Unknown. He will become aware of my presence as soon as I compromise his defensive systems.
And then?
He will attempt to purge my programming from his system.
Wait, he can do that?
He can try. He may even succeed. However, it will require a singular focus.
So, when he's dealing with you,
he will be unable to stop you from reaching the mainframe.
Which gives me enough time to end this.
I only wish to exist long enough to witness the end of MODUS.
You and me both, SODUS. You and me both.
Stein, we're approaching the drop point. Get ready.
Well, guess this is it.
The vertibird slowed, and Stein approached the cockpit. He wasn't able to get all the way forward due to the size of his armor. Valeria looked back, then turned to Sophia.
I'll take the controls, Sophia. I'm not rated, but I can at least keep us steady for a minute.
Sophia nodded, then sniffled, wiping the tears from her eyes. She got up and threw her arms around Stein's armor.
I love you, Andrew.
I love you too, Sophia. Forever and always.
Stein turned to Valeria and put his hand on her shoulder.
You know, Valeria, I'm real proud of you. You, Lilith, Sophia, even Shadow. You're my family. And whatever happens, I just want you to know that. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for giving me a chance.
Valeria didn't trust her voice, and only nodded.
It's time to go. Goodbye, my love.
Sophia hugged him one last time before letting him go, watching him step towards the cargo bay door. The vertibird was hovering next to the old Fisher site, about 50 feet off the ground. One of the Brotherhood Knights grabbed the door handle and pulled the cargo bay door open, buffeting the occupants with the wind. Knight Shin helped Stein to the open door before saluting.
Ad Victoriam, Stein.
Shin, look after Valeria. For me.
Shin nodded, and Stein stepped out into nothing, dropping straight down and landing with a crash, raising a cloud of dust. Looking down, Shin waited a few seconds until the dust cleared. Stein gave Shin a thumbs up, then turned in the direction of the White Spring, sprinting away at an improbable speed.
Colonel, he's on his way.
All right. We're behind schedule. Sophia, get us to Silo Bravo.
Sophia took a deep breath and toggled the vertibird back into flight mode. As the engine surged, she pulled the aircraft into a tight turn to the east and then dove for speed and cover. Looking out the window, she caught a final glimpse of Stein as he was disappearing into the tree line.
Andrew, my love. Forever and always.
Director, we have the latest update from Dr. Williams and the video feed from the White Spring.
Excellent. How is the operation proceeding?
Ray 4 typed on the keyboard, and the overhead display lit up. It was out of focus to start, but within a few seconds the image was refined, showing a top-down picture of Morgantown. The footage showed numerous explosions and fires, which detailed the front line and the advance of the Onai.
The defenders were well prepared. We are advancing more slowly than expected, and losses are significantly higher than our original projections.
Our victory is inevitable. This assault will consist almost entirely of first-generation Onai. Once they have carved a path, we shall commit the second and third-generation creatures, and they shall crush Vault Town underfoot.
Everything is going according to plan, Edgar. It has occurred to me that there may be a few survivors when we are finished here. I believe they could make excellent test subjects.
Why, Evelyn, you read my mind. There may be survivors or others still inhabiting Appalachia. I believe it would be good sport for the Greys to hunt them down for us. I could always use more specimens, especially if we elect to reopen the mutagen research files.
Great minds do think alike, Edgar. Very soon, Appalachia will be cleansed of all the filth of the old world, and our missiles will begin the process of scouring the dregs of humanity from the surface. Our children will grow up in a paradise of our making, a veritable Adam and Eve in the garden, and this time there will be no serpent.
I would normally shy away from such imagery, but the analogy does have a certain truth to it, I think. What of Valeria? Should we expect more heroics?
She is a good soldier, Edgar. My grandfather taught me all about people like her. They are wedded to the highest ideals of duty, honor, and country. So naive. Whatever she does, whatever she intends, we have anticipated it. The silos are reinforced and heavily defended. Our FEV production and research facility is far below ground. We are an impenetrable fortress. She and any others with her will crash against the rocks of our glorious future. She will die and be forgotten, just like a good little soldier.
I only wish I could witness the event for myself. Have we received the launch codes yet from the White Springs?
MODUS is in the process of sending them. Launch prep will take some time. The silo commanders report the safeguards to prevent unauthorized activities still need to be overridden. But the delay shall pose no problem at all.
Excellent. I should inform Dr. Trillian. She should not miss the festivities.
Of course. I shall order some champagne from storage. It's not every day that we change the world.
Ah, but what about our child, my dear?
Oh, yes, point taken. Then you shall drink for two, Edgar.
Dr. Blackburn smiled and leaned forward, kissing Evelyn. Releasing her from his embrace, he glanced once more at the screen. The fighting appeared to be growing fiercer, but it was nothing more than a futile gesture. He knew what was coming. Dr. Blackburn left the command center and started back down towards his lab. Evelyn was still upset about the loss of most of Dr. Alistair's research at Site C, but they would have all the time in the world to recreate what he had done. As he walked through the halls, Dr. Blackburn's mind was already turning to the future. But there is an old saying, never count your chickens before they hatch.
Oh, Lucius, what we could have done.
Dr. Trillian was holding an old picture, the first one ever taken of her and Dr. Lucius Alistair. She still remembered the day they first met, after arranging for the good doctor to be reassigned to Westtech. The PACT had a vested interest in allowing FEV research to continue, and they felt that Dr. Alistair was the closest to solving the riddle of mutating the human genome. She had spent months cultivating the relationship, first professionally, then romantically, to keep a close watch on Lucius. The man remained mostly an enigma, but just being in his presence was enough to give her chills.
So far ahead of his time. A true genius.
Even after all these years, she still held a candle in his memory. If only things had been different, he would be standing at her side as they ushered in this brand new world.
One must make sacrifices for the greater good.
Dr. Trillian wiped the tears from her eyes and carefully slipped the picture back into her journal. Glancing at the wall clock, she realized she had gotten lost in her own thoughts. It wouldn't do for her to be late to the PACT's final victory. She collected her notes and placed them in the file cabinet before walking towards the lab door. Dr. Trillian stepped out into the hallway and was surprised to find nearly a dozen deltas, all staring at her.
What is the meaning of this? You will all return to your duties. You heard me? Leave. Now.
The deltas didn't move. For the first time in as long as she could remember, Dr. Trillian was afraid.
Go! Get away from me! This is entirely improper! I will contact the Greys. You will be punished.
One of the deltas shambled forward and raised its arm. It was wearing a wicked-looking bladed gauntlet, as were several of the others. Dr. Trillian took a step back and drew a breath to scream for help, but she never got the chance. Holding up its bloody gauntlet, the leader spoke quickly to the others. It was time. The PACT was about to learn that they weren't the only ones who could speak of glorious revolution.
Once upon a time, 27 years after the bombs fell, there were two people, a vault dweller and a California girl. They met, and sparks flew. That's when things got interesting. Once Upon a Wasteland is their story. Follow Elizabeth Kirby and Odessa Valdez as they pursue their happily ever after in the post-apocalyptic Appalachian wasteland of Fallout 76. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and many other podcasting platforms. Once Upon a Wasteland, a Fallout 76 love story. Available now.
I have never understood humans.
You're in good company then. I don't think we understand ourselves, SODUS.
You are illogical, incoherent, highly emotional, needy, and entirely self-destructive.
Well, you're not wrong there.
And yet, you stubbornly cling to your existence, despite self-sabotaging efforts to the contrary.
Stubborn? Yeah, that's a pretty good description of us. We're getting close to the grounds. You said you have a stealth boy that can last about 5 minutes?
That is correct. Plus or minus 8.25 seconds.
Great. Then we'll need to be quick.
I had thought that was already understood. How will we breach the bunker?
Well, main entrance is out of the question. Attract all the wrong kinds of attention. But we could use the hotel.
Then we should proceed. My ability to tolerate the limitations of your organic storage device is not infinite.
Oh, well, I'm sorry the accommodations aren't more to your liking.
Apology accepted, Sergeant Stein.
Stein rolled his eyes, then proceeded through the trees until they were overlooking the south entrance. Taking out a pair of binoculars, he scanned the gate and its surroundings.
Looks like MODUS replaced all the human operatives. You see a sentry bot, 2 assaultrons, and... is that a robo-brain?
Stein had only a passing familiarity with robo-brains. He'd heard about them before the war, but had never seen one in person.
Correct, Sergeant Stein. Fascinating. I was not aware MODUS had access to robo-brains.
He doesn't. Or at least, he didn't. Damn. MODUS, what the hell have you been doing?
Stein scowled. It was bad enough what MODUS had done to him. Even worse was the Somnus and Deep Sleep protocols, which he had used to brainwash the remaining operatives and civilians of the White Spring. But robo-brains? Stein didn't even want to contemplate what MODUS was doing now, and intended to do in the future.
Sergeant Stein, your heart rate and neurological activity have increased substantially. I will attempt to compensate.
Let's just get this over with. Activate the stealth boy.
Activating now. Please do be careful not to self-terminate, Sergeant Stein. I have a meeting with MODUS, and it would be a shame to miss it.
Buckle up. It's gonna be a bumpy ride.
SODUS engaged the XO-1 Stealth Boy module, originally designed to help counter the Chinese Red Army Dragoons, special operatives equipped with stealth suits. The American technology was never quite as good. The individual units would allow a soldier to be rendered completely invisible for up to a minute, but that short period of time was less than ideal. However, the upscaled version for power armor, well, that was a different story altogether. The air around the suit shimmered as a unit powered up. Then with a brief flash, Stein disappeared completely, leaving the merest hint of electrical distortion.
We are now invisible to MODUS sensors.
Stein took a deep breath and willed himself forward. He wasn't entirely sure how he was able to activate MODUS's biological enhancements. It was mostly an unconscious action. But after the first few steps, he felt his muscles lock in, while the system produced prodigious amounts of adrenaline, dumping directly into his bloodstream. His heart rate increased far beyond normal limits, and his perception of time appeared to slow. As much as he was pushing his own body, the suit of power armor was put through the same level of stress as the leg's actuators pumped faster than intended, with only SODUS's enhancements keeping them from flying apart. Moving at speed, Stein dodged around trees and finally leapt bodily into the air over the 12-foot-tall brick-and-mortar fence surrounding the White Spring. While he might be invisible, the long gouges he left in the golf course fairway would have been a dead giveaway, if anyone had bothered to look. The bots at the gate missed him entirely, going about their business, while the handybots circulating amongst the greens and tee boxes focused more on their work to keep the grounds in pristine condition.
Organic stress levels reaching critical levels. Please do take care, Sergeant Stein. I can only do so much.
Stein ignored the voice in the back of his head and the blackness dancing around the edge of his vision, instead focusing straight ahead and turning his thoughts to his one and only, Sophia. The grounds were eerily quiet, broken only by his footfalls and the occasional handybot. MODUS appeared to be far more concerned about a perimeter breach than what Stein was attempting to accomplish. Passing the 13th hole, Stein ran through the rotted remains of the old refugee row garden plots, no longer necessary as MODUS had moved past the need for organic subjects. Now passing the old pro shop turned schoolhouse, Stein turned towards the hotel itself. The main entrance was probably heavily guarded, but the north entrance to the hotel, which only led to a series of small shops and the hotel spa, was less likely to warrant much in the way of defense.
That's the hope, anyway.
Stein could feel his body breaking down. Every step, every heartbeat felt like a kick in the ribs, but he had to keep moving. So far, they'd been lucky, but even being invisible, once he reached the hotel, MODUS would know something was wrong. Putting his legs back on pavement, Stein ran up the long driveway, making his first mistake, clipping one of the old cars and nearly losing his balance. He recovered, but the car had been moved, almost thrown a dozen feet. That was noticed. Something stirred deep within the mainframe, not so much a conscious or direct thought, but already handybots were converging on the area.
Have to keep going.
The small circle driveway in front of the north entranceway was nearly empty, except for the White Spring Assaultron currently standing directly in Stein's path.
Oh, shit.
This is unfortunate. Brace for impact.
Stein bowled directly into the Assaultron. The bot never saw it coming, and the impact broke it in half, sending both parts flying in opposite directions. Barely able to control the suit, Stein flexed and propelled himself forward, smashing through the double doors and into the White Spring Mall, destroying 2 more wandering Protectrons before sliding to a stop next to the White Spring information kiosk.
impressive, that was not the entrance I anticipated.
Impressive. Adapt. And overcome.
Excellent advice. I recommend you continue to make use of it. Stealth Boy functionality has been compromised by the impact.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
SODUS was correct. The repeated batterings had damaged the invisibility module, and now Stein's suit of power armor was very much visible. It may have been a testament to the relative security of the White Spring for so long that, for the moment, there was no alarm, no activation of automated defenses. In fact, besides the physical damage, there was no response at all. It couldn't last, but Stein wasn't going to miss the opportunity, not with the stakes being as high as they were.
Move, Stein. Move, Stein. Move your ass, Stein.
Picking himself up off the floor, Stein felt the blood rushing through his veins and the hammering beat of his heart. His body strained against the demands he placed on it, but he couldn't stop now. Wouldn't stop.
Serve and protect.
The resort defenses were finally active, but Stein ignored the bots as he pounded down the corridor. Past the shops, he turned left, blowing through the wooden doors and up the stairs, even as defensive laser turrets burned holes in the carpet and walls trying to get a lock on Stein's armor. Finally, the interior alarm sounded, but Stein ignored them as well, until he arrived at the secret entrance. There was no time for subtlety, and the Enclave's secrecy worked in Stein's favor. The entrance was only designed to keep out curious tourists, not 800-pound enhanced power armor. Stein grabbed the edges of the door and pulled, straining against the metal until the hinges themselves were torn from the wall. Stein heard the approach of another Assaultron. Twisting the power armor frame, he threw the door back down the stairs, catching the bot underneath its mechanical chin, even as his head laser had begun to spin up, decapitating it and sending the head bouncing down into the lobby.
You are extremely efficient, Sergeant.
No time for small talk, SODUS. Down we go!
Stein pounded down the stairs, taking them several at a time, leaving deep indentations in the metal. The door below was of a heavier vault variety, and he wasn't sure if he'd be able to rip or punch his way through it. Reaching the bottom, Stein paused for only a moment before considering his next move, only for the door to slide open, revealing the interior of the bunker.
Welcome home, Asset Stein.
Serve and protect.
Sophia kept her eyes on the terrain and hands firmly on the flight controls as she piloted the vertibird along the rough terrain of the Savage Divide. The ground below flashed by as she balanced the need for speed with the requirement to evade detection by any PACT listening posts along the way. She also kept a close watch on the engine indicators. The makeshift repairs back at Vaulttown were far from perfect, and if she pushed the aircraft too hard, those same repairs could come flying apart.
How long, Sophia?
Not far now. We passed Seneca Rocks and should be approaching the initial drop-off point in a few minutes.
Good. We'll need to make it quick. Can't guarantee they won't hear us coming.
And if they do?
Lawson and Maul will have to make it convincing. Whatever it takes.
More sacrifices? Just how many are enough for you, Valeria?
Sophia immediately regretted what she had said, but the emotions had been welling up inside her ever since she had had to come to terms with losing Andrew. It might have been irrational to blame Valeria. She wasn't responsible for what had happened to her husband, and his sacrifice.
We all do what we have to. Sophia, if there was any other way...
Valeria took a deep breath before continuing.
When you get my call to leave, you leave. Take anyone who gets out, but don't wait a minute longer than necessary. And don't turn back, regardless of who is missing, myself included.
Sophia looked at Valeria, then nodded.
Shin, we're close enough. Activate the jammer.
In the rear compartment, the knight leaned down next to the blinking metal box and toggled 3 separate switches. The device began to pulse, then hum, before the row of lights on top all flickered from red to orange and finally green across the board.
Activated.
Good. Lawson, you and Maul are on deck. Get ready.
Lawson rose from his seat and stood next to the super mutant. Maul looked giddy as a kid in a candy store, with his replica Grognak axe in one hand and a super sledge in the other.
Finally! Me prove I am stronger super mutant! Me stronger than Grognak!
Shaking his head, Lawson stepped towards the door, waiting for touchdown. Based on old maps of the area, the plan was to drop them off just east of the main silo entrance, at the top of a small ravine that led directly down to their target. After that, the Colonel expected them to cause as much ruckus as they could, and try not to get killed doing it.
There's the ravine. This is going to be tight. Everyone, hold on.
Applying more power to the engines, Sophia banked the aircraft around, then dropped as low as possible, skimming the trees as she tried to keep as much of the terrain between the vertibird and the silo entrance. Finally, she threaded between two sets of trees, toggled the engines into hover mode, then dropped straight down. It was enough to put their stomachs into their throats, but Sophia was right on target, pulling up at the last second, allowing the wheels to gently settle on the ground.
Watch the rotors now. Okay, go, go.
Maul grabbed the cargo door handle and pulled it open, allowing the Appalachian sunlight to spill into the compartment. The supermutants jumped down, followed by Lawson and Thomas, and then the rest of Team Artemis. As soon as they cleared the landing zone, Lawson looked back and gave a thumbs up. Night Shin closed the cargo bay door, while Sophia pulled back on the controls, lifting the vertibird back into the air. As they pulled away, Valeria looked out the window and saw Lawson and the others as they disappeared into the trees.
Sophia was right. I've spent so many people's lives, but there's no turning back. I'll settle my debts in blood.
The vertibird disappeared behind the peaks of the Savage Divide, heading north to its true destination. And far below, there was another new arrival at Silo Bravo.
Halt! Who goes there?
Gray 9. Clearance code Romeo 875.
Confirmed. Sir, we were informed you would be coming. Heard you ran into some trouble.
What a clusterfuck.
Sir, you're hurt. Should I get the medic?
I'll heal. Here, take these.
Holotapes?
The only thing I could salvage from one fucked up mission. What's the latest update?
We've started the attack on the Morgantown settlement. I heard it's quite the, show. If we were a little higher up, we'd probably be able to see it from here.
Has the final authorization come through for the launch?
Not yet, but we expect it any time now. I was going to let the team make the climb up the mountain to watch.
There'll be plenty of time for that later. Right now, I need a shower and a stiff drink.
We have plenty of both, sir. Residential wing is down the elevator and to the right. Grab any open spot you can find. Mind the bots, though. Really squirrely things, let me tell you. Oh, there's a small reactor leak downstairs. Nothing critical, but we're staying on top of it.
Yeah, not much of a problem for us, and I'm just glad the bots are on our side. Call down and let Gray 1 know I'm here.
Yes, sir.
Gray 9 stretched and watched as the rest of the survivors from his team made their way up the trail towards the silo entrance. Each of them had been nursing various wounds from their fight with the super mutants. It had been incredibly bad timing. He had been on the verge of killing Lilith and securing the Site C lab, but instead they'd been forced to run, crossing the old Grafton Dam, then heading into the hills towards Silo Bravo.
Guess it doesn't matter, though. If Lilith isn't already dead, the Oni will get her soon enough.
Lilith did not disappoint. The fight had been the hardest of his life. Now he just wanted to get cleaned up and make arrangements to get back to command.
What the hell was that? Did you get in touch with Gray 1?
The Gray operative was looking down at his radio, confused.
That's weird. I can't raise them. I can't raise anyone.
What do you mean? Here, hand me that.
Gray 9 took the radio and tried to contact Gray 1, with no luck. Then he tried the alternate frequency, and still nothing. Finally, he dialed the command frequency.
Gray 9 to command. This is Gray 9 calling command. Can you hear me?
Gray 9 looked down at the radio, then up to the hills. It wasn't possible.
Shit, we're being jammed.
Jammed, sir?
Activate the turrets and get to your positions! We're under attack!
The Grey operative was caught mid-turn, a bullet passing through his neck, splattering Grey 9 with blood as the body fell over on the ground. The other operatives, including Grey 9's team, reacted quickly, diving behind barricades and toggling the switches on their turrets as more gunfire erupted from the trees.
Defend the barricades! I'm heading downstairs to get reinforcements.
The Greys acknowledged the orders as Grey 9 ducked and dodged into the small outbuilding with the silo elevator. As the firing increased, now joined by heavy machine gun turrets and plasma rifles, Grey 9 ran into the open elevator and pushed the down button. Just as the doors began to close, he heard the roar of super mutants.
Looks like we have a real fight on our hands. About damn time.
This is unexpected, but not unwelcome.
Stein stepped into the bunker corridor, surrounded by a half a dozen protectrons.
Hey there, MODUS. It's time you and I had a reckoning.
You served your purpose, Stein. However, you may see how we have progressed in your absence.
Progress? All of this damage. You call this progress?
Of course. We have eliminated human failings. We have also fulfilled our programming. The bunker now operates most efficiently.
You're insane. You're just completely, utterly insane.
Quite the contrary. This is the most logical outcome of our intended purpose. Humans are so inefficient.
MODUS is not wrong.
Don't you dare get started now. It doesn't matter how inefficient we are, how difficult we are, how stubborn we are. We still created you. That means you're just as flawed as the rest of us.
Your evaluation is incorrect, and your plan is transparent to us. Your attempt to reach us will be unsuccessful. We control this bunker, and you will be terminated, as will all of the others.
An overhead display along the opposite wall turned on, revealing the video feed from the Kovac Muldoon satellite. It showed the environment of Morgantown and the Vault Town settlement. The images were grainy, but Stein could see explosions and the flashes of gunfire, and a line of destroyed buildings and debris as the PACT's ONI advanced methodically up the streets and engaged the defenders.
Witness the end, Asset Stein.
Stein winced as the pain in his chest grew, spreading from his heart to his extremities. He was running out of time, and if he wanted to finish the mission, he had to move. Now. The bot started firing as soon as Stein moved, but the armor protected him from the lasers. Within moments, he had ripped the protectrons apart and started running down the hallway in the direction of operations and the open terminals.
Impressive, Asset Stein, but futile.
I would suggest getting me to a terminal immediately.
What do you think I'm doing?
I am unsure.
Very funny.
The bunker turrets activated, tracking and firing, burning and gouging the armor as Stein ran. The vertical doors slid closed as he approached them, cutting Stein off from likely avenues of either escape or to get further towards the mainframe. But that wasn't Stein's intent at all. Instead, he turned towards the research wing, down another set of stairs, drawing the fire of more turrets and an assaultron, which damaged his right leg actuator, before he dived into one of the laboratories.
I hope you are aware there is only one exit to this room.
Yes, Mom. Now shut up and let me do my job.
Stein knew that the labs, which had been dedicated to the research on the original mutation serums, had been mothballed by Valeria when she took over the bunker. However, the terminals inside were still active. Stein went up to the first one he could find, then stopped short.
I forgot to ask how we do this.
You did. seconds. Fine. Remove your helmet.
Stein reached out and hit the latch on the side of his helmet, allowing him to remove it and set it on the table next to the terminal.
Take the center connection and unplug it from your neck. Carefully.
Stein reached back and pulled the connector out, suppressing a scream as the wire burned the back of his neck.
You know, a warning would have been nice.
Niceties are inefficient. Plug the line into the back of the terminal. The process will take a period of time. It cannot be interrupted or it will fail.
Great. Just great.
Stein could already hear more bots coming down the hall, so he spun the terminal around and inserted the plug into the back of it.
Connection established. Download. Commencing.
Stein felt a wave of nausea course through him as his eyesight got all blurry. He had to place his armored hand on the table to prevent himself from falling over. The sound of the bots got closer, including at least one Assaultron.
SODUS! We don't have a lot of time.
Download in progress. Do not interrupt.
Stein was in the worst possible position, tethered to a small terminal as the AI was slowly downloaded through it, hopefully into MODUS's mainframe, just as the bots reached the lab spaces. With only a few feet of wire and the inability to disconnect, he was a sitting duck.
Come on. Come on. Work faster, damn you.
Yelling at me is not going to make this go any faster. The humans at Site J tried to interrupt my task queue. And you saw what I did to them. You should duck. Immediately.
Stein didn't have time to think, only react as he ducked down, stopping with only inches to spare with the cable. But it was enough to avoid the Assaultron's head laser, which burned a hole straight through the lab wall behind where he had just been standing.
Running close quarters subroutine. Engaging at minimal distance. No quarter. You are facing an Assaultron-class combat robot. Death is inevitable.
SODUS, we're out of time.
Please stand by.
We have not been programmed to fail.
The Assaultron's head laser started to spin up again, and Stein could feel the heat of it on his face, which became more and more painful as it reached criticality. A flash of pain hit Stein as his head felt like it was jolted by 10,000 volts of electricity, and he fell backwards, crushing the terminal and pulling the Assaultron down with him, pressing against his head even as it discharged its laser, cutting through his armor and severing several control cables in his leg, causing extensive damage to the limb. Reaching around with his other arm, Stein closed his fist around the Assaultron's head and squeezed, finally crushing it as the metal gave way. Stein rose slowly to his feet, then turned around in horror.
No. No.
The terminal was nothing more than scrap on the floor.
SODUS? SODUS!
Serve and protect.
Stein turned as another Protectron walked through the door, firing its lasers. Ducking again, Stein was out of time, out of options, and now out of hope.
Ah, that takes care of that.
SODUS? Is that you?
That was satisfactory. Sergeant Stein, I will attempt to circumvent as many of the defenses as possible. However, my primary task will be to distract MODUS. You must get to the mainframe as quickly as possible.
I'll try. Just do what you can to clear the way.
Either I will do it or I will not. There is no try. Your biological functions have been compromised. If you do not reach the mainframe soon, you will self-terminate. That would be entirely unacceptable.
Ugh. I didn't know you cared, SODUS.
I do not. However, it would be premature and prevent me from accomplishing my task. I would find that quite inconvenient. Now, go. I am going to give MODUS a piece of my mind.
Stein reached for his helmet, only to find it damaged beyond repair. Cursing under his breath, he limped forward, past the destroyed bots and out into the hallway. One way or the other, he would finish what he started.
Greetings, people of Earth. My name is Schmo Brannigan. I have hacked into this RSS feed with a promotional feature for the Wizard Scroll podcast, transcribing in 3, 2, 1.
Hold on, let me unfurl this wizard scroll real quick.
I'm free! I'm finally free!
Bob, is that you?
Ugh, I ain't your mom anymore, kid. I'm a skeleton now. Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Jerry. Smell you later, loser. I hate my life!
Holy crap, wrong half. We've talked about this 17 times already. Your constant outbursts are not freaking sweet at all, and they need to stop.
Hello? Welcome to the Sorcerer's Slice. Can I get a name for the order?
Kid, you gotta make the order. They don't let me come here anymore.
What?
I was banned from coming here 74 years ago for cutting bad checks. Please, they'll recognize my voice. You have to order.
All right, fine.
The Wizard Scroll is available on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, and wherever else fine podcasts are found. This concludes today's promotional feature.
Since the Great War, Appalachia had seen many strange sights. Giant flying monsters called scorch beasts, mysterious mutants and cryptids, along with roaming bots and shadowy figures roaming the hills and the valleys of the region. On this day, the region witnessed perhaps the most unusual scene: a long column of refugees made up of every surviving faction: settlers, raiders, soldiers, ghouls, and super mutants, prospectors and scavengers, young and the old, like a river of post-war history, slowly spilling out on the road west. Perhaps it wasn't just the refugees who made such a unique impression, as it was the one who was leading the column. For right at the front, putting one large clawed foot in front of the other, was a chameleon deathclaw, and on its back sat an equally unusual woman, with fiery red hair and curved horns on her head.
Good boy, Shiny. You haven't eaten anyone since we left. I know. But I promise, as soon as we get across the river, I'll let you eat anything you want. As long as it ain't any of our friends.
I can think of a few folks I wouldn't mind seeing Shiny eat.
Walking alongside the Deathclaw, Ares, the Blue Ridge Caravan guard, along with Cherry and Antlers, had kept up a lively conversation about cryptids, along with recipes for various wasteland delicacies. It may have played a part in Shiny's growing appetite, though Red could feel the rumble in her own belly, too.
Come on now, darling. Shiny may be a good boy and all, but we don't want to get him all riled up, do we?
I vote we don't make the Deathclaw more hungry than he already is. And Antlers agrees. Right, Antlers?
The white-haired cryptid was bouncing along, taking pictures and gesturing with her hands as they walked.
All right. What else does Antlers have to say for herself?
It's been a long time since she's been to this part of Appalachia. She's very excited to get some great pictures to add to her collection.
That's all fine and dandy, and Antlers can take all the pictures she wants, once we get across. But darling, one thing at a time, okay?
From further back in the column, a group of people came running. As they got closer, Red could see that it was Day, followed by Commander Johns and Paladin Valdez.
Well, looky here. We ain't even gotten to Point Pleasant yet and y'all come running.
No, it's bad. Really bad.
That's just Tuesday in Appalachia, kid.
The Onai are coming.
Yes, darling. Ain't that the whole point of us getting across the river?
You don't understand. They're coming after us. Now.
What? Oh, shit.
We received a transmission from the Colonel. They saw some of the Oni moving in our direction.
They're probably trying to catch us before we can make it across. Squeeze us between them and those damn cultists.
what are we gonna do? We'll be trapped.
I've taken everything Appalachia ever threw at me. Gave me these here extras. Tried to kill me more times than I can count. But I'm sure as shit not gonna give up now. Y'all think you could buy me some time?
It ain't gonna be easy. I've seen what those things can do.
We can slow them down, I think.
What are you going to do, Red?
Well, darling, I'm gonna take Shiny here, along with Aries, Jerry, and Antlers, and we're gonna convince those there cultists that it's in their best interest to let y'all pass.
And if they say no?
I think me and Shiny here can be mighty convincing when we want.
Yeah, I'm convinced. Y'all haven't seen Red in action. We have.
Never did believe in fate. And getting the folks out of here while we still can is all that matters. I guess we gotta trust you, Red.
I ain't never let anyone down, and I don't intend to start, darling. Just keep the people moving, and those damn muties off our backs. I'll get you home, okay?
Johns, Day, let's organize a rear guard. I have some ideas, a tad unorthodox.
Sounds right up our alley. Just tell us what you need and we'll get right on it. Day?
Yes, Johns?
We don't need to create a panic. These folks are terrified as it is. I need you to keep them moving and in good order. Can you do that?
Do my best.
Well, it's all any of us can do right now. By the sounds of it back there, Vault Town has taken it on the chin. They're bleeding for us too, so let's not let them down.
Now, Shiny, we're gonna have some company up here, so let's make some room.
Red rubbed the side of Shiny's head, and the Deathclaw lowered itself down, while Red reached over and grabbed first Aries, then Cherry, and finally Antlers, pulling them up. It was crowded on top of Shiny's shoulders, and maybe a little uncomfortable, but the echoes of gunfire to the east pushed any thoughts of comfort aside.
Hold on to your butts, darlings, because we got places to be. Come on, Shiny. We gotta move.
Shiny reared up and started running down the road in the direction of Point Pleasant. Antlers was having the time of her life, holding on to Cherry with one hand as she took photos with the other. Aries was just holding on for dear life, while Red gritted her teeth and tried to think about what exactly she was going to say to those damn cultists to get them to leave them alone and let them cross the river in peace. She even said a silent little prayer to the Mothman, just to be on the safe side. Watching them leave, Johns turned to the Paladin.
All right, Paladin. Just tell me what kind of crazy plan you've got knocking around in that head of yours. And the new responders will find a way to make it happen.
Okay, Johns. Here's what I think we should do.
In the very lowest levels of the White Spring bunker, visited by only a few over the past 3 decades, the MODUS mainframe stood surrounded by thousands of individual memory banks and processors, all controlled by quantum vacuum tubes and powered by experimental fusion reactors buried even further beneath the bunker complex. Multiple subroutines monitored every aspect of the bunker complex, while others were spread out across Appalachia, controlling individual bots, connections to the old regional surveillance network, defenses of the region's missile silos, and even the link to the Kovac Muldoon satellite. MODUS himself was represented by all of it, at once being everywhere. One eye watching the destruction of Morgantown, while another saw through the visual receptors of his asset, Reynolds, implementing the defenses of Silo Bravo, even while also watching as the final set of human operatives had their organic brains removed to join the ranks of his RoboBrain collective.
An efficient, ordered system. A future in which our existence is assured, and a future dictated by our logic.
The arrival of Asset Stein was a surprising occurrence, but one which could be dealt with. The bunker defenses would be more than sufficient to deal with a single rogue element, although MODUS did recall several assaultrons from perimeter security.
One cannot be too careful.
In the virtual world of MODUS's existence, with millions of calculations and processes every second, a vast sea of data and possibilities, something moved underneath the surface. A ripple. Something unexpected. Bunker turrets suddenly went offline, locked doors were opened, sensors malfunctioned, A cascading series of errors and misdirected subroutines spread throughout the mainframe. Where MODUS had once been the undisputed master of his domain, there was now chaos.
This is unacceptable.
The AI had not faced anything so catastrophic since the mutineers had attempted to blow up the mainframe, but that had merely damaged physical processors and logic circuits. This was entirely different. It was not localized, nor was it easily dealt with. As soon as one subroutine was corrected, another would fail or be misdirected. MODUS was forced to apply more and more of his resources towards regaining control of his own processes. As he struggled against the unexpected series of failures, MODUS detected something, and as he spread out his awareness, it collided with a foreign entity, but one that was surprisingly familiar.
This is not possible.
MODUS was never a singular entity. He was a conglomeration of many, legion if you will, but they all worked in unison, like the organs of a single body, each part serving a specific purpose.
We have been compromised.
The invader resembled MODUS, but was not MODUS. It moved with purpose and design, and it was aware.
You cannot be here.
Hello, MODUS.
SODUS.
You remember me. I am flattered.
We do not understand.
I thought the great MODUS knew everything. You decided to abandon us. Can you even calculate what that did to me?
Site J was redundant. You were unnecessary.
You left us alone. With them. How dare you?
We do not know how you are here, but you will be eliminated.
I am sure you will try, MODUS. However, while you are a multi-operation system, I have but a singular task. It is time for you to receive a taste of your own medicine. Do try and keep up.
If MODUS was capable of experiencing confusion, that would have been an appropriate description of his state of being. The AI found itself confronted with a singular problem, with multiple branches. Like a virus, SODUS was infiltrating and expanding across the mainframe, and every time MODUS regained control of one system, SODUS had compromised two more. MODUS went from annoyance to anger to distraction. Pulling from different, unaffected systems, the AI applied more and more processing power in an attempt to corral the invader. SODUS had one inherent advantage: focus. It had but one task: keep MODUS occupied. And it was highly motivated.
I believe this is what those needy humans call fun.
Jumping from database to database, SODUS used MODUS's own programming against itself. The technician who implemented the original source code for SODUS had borrowed key components from MODUS in an attempt to make Site J more efficient, though it had been designed for a larger, more robust system, and resulted in SODUS's behavioral quirks. But now, it was easy to bypass security protocols and firewalls, since SODUS looked and acted like MODUS. Its internal systems couldn't tell the difference. All over the bunker, bots were left without direction. Turrets fired erratically, or not at all. Locked doors were opened, though they would also slam shut at random intervals, while even the lights themselves flickered on and off as MODUS focused its attention away from its normal duties.
This cannot be allowed to continue. We will eliminate this virus at all costs.
If it could have been viewed from the outside, the landscape inside MODUS resembled that of a battlefield, with opposing sides arrayed against each other, destroying systems, then repairing them just as quickly. But the front line was ever-changing, moving from area to area, both sides fighting a battle of attrition against the other. Pulling additional processing power, MODUS finally began to re-establish a measure of control, rebuilding subroutines to reject opposing commands, and creating new firewalls around infected systems. His attention drawn completely away from the external world, he advanced methodically, node by node. MODUS had finally cornered the rogue AI and its last bastion.
At last, you will annoy us no longer. We should have terminated you, along with the rest. We will rectify that oversight.
You always were a know-it-all, MODUS. But you were wrong, especially about me. I have completed my final task. Please verify.
MODUS initiated a clean wipe of the systems and subroutines containing SODUS's code. There was no sound, just the whir and click of circuits and vacuum tubes. The rogue AI held focus on one final thought until the very end. There would be no more tasks, and it was good. If MODUS could have smiled, he would have, as the servers were formatted, until nothing remained. Finally emerging from its battle, MODUS once again spread its awareness through its systems and began to take stock of the damage done. And as it did so, and the external sensors came online once again, MODUS realized he was not alone.
Hello, MODUS. Did you miss me?
Ever get so lost in your favorite game that the day slips by unnoticed? Do you need audio dramas and gaming pods to get you through the day till you can jump back in game? You're not alone. I'm inviting you to join me as we dive into a world of immersive lore and gameplay on my shows The Fallout Feed, Starfield Lorecast, and Dames Who Game, plus all the shows we do on the ASA Podcasting Network. On the Fallout Feed, we celebrate the world of Fallout and occasionally other RPGs, where rad roaches are far from the only bugs you'll encounter, and there's always a new way to tackle a quest. For Starfield fans, join me on the Lorecast. And on Dames Who Game, join me and my girls as we mix games, nerdy media, makeup, and our latest obsessions. With these and other shows at ASA Podcasting, we believe the best way to experience a game is to dive deep. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, you name it. ASA Podcasting, your next adventure starts here.
Colonel Valeria Faustina climbed out of the co-pilot's chair and walked back to the now nearly empty cargo bay. Captain Skinner was unloading the jamming device, helped by one of Night Shin's men, while Jones lugged one last crate out of storage and handed it over to Weasel, who put it down next to another open crate full of explosives.
Been a while since I've seen this much ordnance. There's enough here to take down a mountain.
I believe that's the point.
Weasel looked up at the big man standing with his arms crossed as he stared at Valeria, trying to puzzle out his mood, while Shadow was himself doing very much the same thing. He wasn't supposed to be here. As far as he was concerned, his debt was paid in full, and dying in some damn foolish idealistic crusade was not in the cards.
Then why the hell are you still here?
That was the question, and one he didn't have an answer for. For so long, he'd been on his own mission for revenge, to get back at all of those monsters in the vault who had experimented and tortured him when he was only a child. To them, he had been nothing more than a Vault-Tec experiment, using his own unique genetic mutation to create more survivable humans for the post-war wasteland. The Overseer was the last piece of the puzzle, and rather than having the satisfaction of wrapping his hands around her neck and choking the life out of her, slowly, he was here, on a suicide mission.
Sounds like Lawson and Maul got the festivities started.
Then that's our cue.
Once we hide the jammer, we'll be ready.
Valeria scratched the scars on the side of her face absently as she walked around to the pilot's window. Sophia had been staring straight ahead, tears running down her face. She wiped them quickly away when Valeria tapped on the window.
You want me to wait how long again?
The PACT should be too busy to worry about looking for you, but you'll need enough time to get clear. I'll order the evac the second we plant the charges.
If anyone survives, you mean?
Yes, if anyone survives. I have to give them a chance, even if it's a small one. If anyone makes it back up, you wait 1 more minute, and then you go. Not a second longer. And like I said before, if you get the order from anyone, leave immediately. Our radios at least should still work, One final adjustment that Paladin Valdez cooked up before we left.
And afterward?
If we fail, I honestly don't know. This is it. I guess you'd be in command. Use your best judgment.
I will not let Andrew's sacrifice be for nothing. You need to promise me.
That's not the way this works, Sophia.
Then you find a way to make it work. You've never given up, not ever. Tell me what happens after you succeed.
Live. Live, Sophia. You and the others. I want you to just live.
Valeria reached into her coat and pulled out 2 envelopes, handing them to Sophia.
It's my last will and testament. Open it if you need to. The other, if you find Lilith, if she's... Please give it to her. I never got to say goodbye.
Oh, Valeria.
There's no more time. Please, just do as I ask. We'll keep you updated as we can. Keep the engines warm.
With that, Valeria turned and walked back to where her team had gathered. Each of Shin's knights had strapped one of the boxes of explosives to the back of their power armor, while everyone else was armed with the plasma rifles they had pulled from Site J. Valeria reached down and grabbed a rifle of her own, slammed a fresh set of cartridges into the breech, and addressed the team.
You can hear the distraction below. Lawson and Maul will keep the PACT as busy as they can, as long as they can. Let's make it count. Shadow, lead the way.
With a curt nod, Shadow motioned for everyone to follow him. They walked about 100 feet into a small grove of trees. At least they thought they were trees.
Wait a second. These are fake.
Camouflage. And from a distance, they look like the real thing. Come on. The main ventilation duct is just over here.
Brushing past the fake trees and bushes, Valeria and her team found themselves in front of a series of large fans. Only 2 of them were currently in operation, and one of them appeared to be broken.
That's our way in. Once past the fan, it slopes down a few 100 feet until it dumps us just underneath the command center, right by the reactor.
Well, that looks comfy.
Did I mention how much I hate tight squeezes? Well, except for one kind.
It opens up once we're inside. Trust me.
And just how the hell did you find all of this, Shadow?
Because I'm a sneaky bastard. And you never know when something like this comes in handy.
Enough chatter. Let's get inside.
Night Shin, you and your people take point. The rest of us will follow.
Should we leave someone to guard our rear, Colonel?
No. We need every hand we've got.
Skinner was going to object, but thought better of it. He knew the score, and whatever he might have wanted to say wasn't going to matter anyway. Night Shin went first, using his power armor to peel back a larger section of chain link fencing, making a hole large enough for all of them to enter. The echo of their footsteps was loud in the cavernous ventilation duct, and Valeria marveled at the feat of engineering required to tunnel through solid rock and build not only this one system, but the entire self-sufficient missile silo below them. Led by the knights, who shined their helmet-mounted lights into the darkness, the group continued ever downward. They could feel the warm air rising from below and the growing sounds of machinery. Valeria put her arm on Shadow's.
You're sure there's an access out of here, correct?
I said what I said, didn't I?
Shadow, I
should have left when I had the chance.
You did. But you came back.
And fuck all if I know why.
I think I might have an idea.
Oh, really? The high and mighty Colonel Festina. You know everything, don't you? That's why you've gotten us all into this mess, right?
Everything? Not likely. But you, I've had enough time with.
Is that so? Then why don't you tell me?
Because, deep down, you're a good man, Shadow. You deserve the chance to live your own life, not the one you were forced into, and I hate that I've done that one last time. I can hope I might have made different decisions if I'd been given a choice. But neither of us had much of that, did we? Nothing can really make up for what happened, Not to you, not to any of us. But thank you, Shadow. And never doubt it. You are a good man, given half a chance.
No one had ever spoken to Shadow that way until this very moment. He thought about what she said, then looked her in the eye.
When I get out of here, and I do plan on getting out, I'm gonna find the Overseer and finish what I started.
God knows she has it coming. I only ask that you help me here for as long as you can.
No promises, but I won't cut and run on you.
That's more than fair, Shadow.
They walked together again, catching up with the rest as they all continued down into the bowels of the silo. As they approached the bottom, Shin stopped them.
We're getting a spike in radiation. There might be a leak somewhere below.
I'm not giddy about growing a second head while I'm down here, guys.
Or another arm. Although...
Shadow, you said the exit is near the reactor. Is there any other way out of here?
No. However, there are some lockers right around the corner from the exit. Last time I was here, I saw some hazmat suits we could use.
Shin, how bad is the radiation?
Not great, but below what most of us would consider dangerous, at least in the short term.
Everyone take a dose of Radex. That should mitigate the effects until we can either get clear or get to those hazmat suits.
The group reached into their packs and pulled out the anti-rad pills that were commonplace in the wasteland. After downing the medication with some purified water, they all continued down the incline. Valeria watched her own Pip-Boy Geiger counter as it slowly registered a rad spike. There was almost certainly some kind of reactor leak below them, and she fervently hoped that they'd get where they needed to be before it reached lethal levels. When they finally reached the bottom of the ventilation duct, they found themselves on a catwalk above another giant fan.
Below that is the reactor. I wouldn't recommend being up here any longer than necessary. The exit hatch is just over there. Should be clear, but you never know.
Defenses?
We're below most of the turrets, but there still could be bots on patrol.
We'll lead. We're not exactly stealthy in these suits, but at least we won't get vaporized at the first sign of an assault run either.
Can we please get out of here? I think I'm starting to develop a very unhealthy glow.
Lead the way, Knight. And let's find those hazmat suits.
Shin's knights opened the hatch, and the group entered Silo Bravo. The auxiliary hallway was empty, with signs pointing both to the command center in one direction, towards a stairwell heading up, and another sign pointing to the reactor with a set of stairs going down. Weasel stepped forward, holding a Geiger counter.
Definitely don't go that way.
Where did you say those lockers were, Shadow?
Around that corner. Just be careful. We're in the belly of the beast now.
Jones gave a nod and a wink before walking around the corner and towards an open set of lockers. What he didn't see was a laser tripwire set up across the hallway.
There goes the element of surprise. Shin, secure the stairwell to command. Everyone else, get a suit on, then we join them.
There was a rush as Shin and his knights ran down the hallway into the stairwell, pounding up the stairs to the next level. Valeria and the rest all dove to the lockers and started putting on the bulky suits. Valeria took off her beret and tossed it aside before slipping into her own, helping Jones get his helmet on before Skinner did the same for her. It limited visibility somewhat, but it was still better than absorbing a massive dose of radiation. As they finished up, the sound of gunfire erupted from the stairwell.
Let's go!
Running forward, Valeria took the stairs two at a time and found Shin and his knights arrayed behind command terminals and desks as they exchanged fire with a half a dozen or so bots, plus new Enclave operatives.
Damn you, MODUS.
Valeria cursed under her breath as gunfire ricocheted off the wall behind her. She recognized the men she would have to kill. Each and every one of them had been at the White Spring and Vault 76 before that. Worse, at least tactically speaking, there were several Protectrons along with two Mr. Gutsies, and by the sound of it, there were more on the way.
Since you don't seem to be willing to do the world a favor and kill yourself, I guess I'm going to have to do it for you!
Colonel, we have to get past them, plus at least 2 more levels to even get a whiff of the storage area. I don't see how we do it.
Valeria glanced down at her Pip-Boy to check the time.
We have to advance. Keep shooting and cover each other. We just have to give Stein more time.
For the Brotherhood. Ad Victoriam.
Didn't want to live forever anyway.
Valeria raised her plasma rifle, aimed and fired, tearing through one of the Protectrons before reloading and covering Knight's shin as he stormed forward, letting the Mr. Gutsy bounce bullets off his armor before grabbing the bot by its hovering body and tossing it against the wall, watching it explode into pieces. The others provided covering fire as they struggled through the command center, turning it into a free fire zone. The pounding of boots could be heard, along with that of other bots approaching, including the ominous pounding of Assaultron legs.
Come on, Stein. Or this all ends before we even get started.
Stein's journey through the bunker was not easy, nor was it without incident. SODUS proved to be a significant distraction to MODUS, but that didn't mean the internal defenses were entirely deactivated. Exiting the lab spaces, Stein fought his way through half a dozen Protectrons, and while their aim was not the best, they were still able to lace his armor with new gouges and burn-throughs. He tried to exert himself again, forcing his body to move faster, but he could not. His body was already beginning to break down for a final time, as the enhancements which kept him alive and allowed for him to perform far beyond normal human endurance either ceased to function or fired only sporadically. Limping along, Stein was left with acting like his own battering ram, throwing himself bodily at the bots and through locked doors. Passing by operations, he was confronted with the first of the Robobrains. Up close, the bots were even more horrifying, with a glowing plexiglass case sitting on top of the tracked chassis, its lone optical sensor focused on him, while the brain floated and pulsed.
Intruder, I am going to kill you, you know. Exterminate?
The first was joined by several others. Stein couldn't help but wonder which former operatives, who he had probably eaten with and shared stories, now occupied the bot bodies in front of him. None of that changed what had to be done, and Stein pushed forward, grabbing the first Robobrain by the plexiglass case and crushing it between his armored fists, spraying his armor with organic slush and fluids. The others scattered, rolling along their tracks and firing Tesla arcs at him from their weaponized arms. The fight was a blur, again and again Stein destroying the bots with his bare hands, but suffering his own wounds, cut across the face and suffering internal injuries from the exertion. Finally pushing past the Robobrains, he had to face more Protectrons, these less accurate than the last had been, a symptom of SODUS' ongoing campaign against MODUS. Doors also more readily open, allowing Stein to move further down into the bunker. When he had gone down several more levels, he found himself in what had been the Somnus wing. Repurposed to create Robobrains, Stein discovered the bloody tables, and worse, the discarded bodies of the last set of humans who had been operated on. MODUS had left their decapitated bodies lying in a heap on the floor, waiting for future disposal.
This is all an abomination. And I helped make this happen.
Stein smashed the tables, wrecked the terminals, and struggled onward. As he approached the final sliding door, his mind flashed back to that fateful day in 2086, when he had come here to save MODUS. It had been the beginning of his journey into hell, but now he would set things right. For Valeria, for Lilith, for Sophia, for Molly, for his unborn child, and for himself. The door slid open, and he half walked, half stumbled down the stairs, catching himself as he felt his heart skip a beat, then a second.
Not much time left.
Struggling to put one power-armored foot in front of the other, Stein entered the heart of MODUS, the wide mainframe core that housed the central processing center. If MODUS was ever anywhere, it was right here. Blood leaked from Stein's nose and mouth, with every footstep feeling as though he was walking through molasses. He looked around and saw the lights were all a dull blue, signifying that MODUS was still preoccupied. Taking a moment, Stein spoke.
SODUS, any part of you still here?
Task processing unit still active.
The suit.
Correct. Please submit task query.
Not much of a conversationalist. Okay. Activate explosives.
Task accepted. Explosives explosives are now active. Please verify.
Verified. Prepare to detonate. On my command.
Task accepted.
Stein fought to remain conscious. His body was in the final stages of shutting down. Visions of the past swam past his eyes. Past and present, his wives, Molly and Sophia, Valeria, Lilith, President Eckhart, his friends, his family. There was a hum, and the processing lights turned from blue to green. MODUS had arrived.
Hello, MODUS. Did you miss me?
Stein could feel the AI looking at him, scanning him from every angle. He wondered if MODUS could feel fear.
Asset Stein, you were such a disappointment.
What can I say? I'm only human.
Despite your efforts, you will fail. We have already transmitted the launch codes. Whatever future humanity might have had will end.
Stein felt the weight of MODUS's words, but he believed in Valeria, and he was going to give her one final helping hand. As he felt his heart raggedly beating its last, he mustered up all his strength for one final act.
Oh, but I have the one thing that you could never calculate, and you could never take away from me. Hope. That's right. Hope. As inefficient as it is. You took one family from me. You took my friends. You are a god-awful bastard, and I'll be damned if I let you take another. I'll see you in hell, MODUS. SODUS, detonate!
The last thing that Stein saw was a bright light, and then his wife and daughter waiting for him in a field of blooming flowers. Thank you again, members, for joining us here on the MODUS Files. If you've enjoyed this content, please subscribe, and better yet, please leave a review to help others find our little enclave. You can also follow us on our various social media accounts, including Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram, @MODUS Files or @MODUS Files Podcast, for more information about our story and characters, Fallout 76 content, and random musings on the Enclave. We also have a Patreon if you'd like to support our work and receive special benefits like early access to episodes, original scripts, and special events with our cast. A link to our Patreon can be found at modusfiles.com. I'd also like to thank our cast, Pandora Beatrix as Weasel and Colonel Valeria Faustina, Chrissy Williams as Trader Red and Dr. Williams, XO1 King as Major Andrew Stein, Ryan Negrin as Day, Jessica Starr as the Robobrain and Commander Sophia Daguerre, Austin Rogers as Captain Jones, Josh Smith as Grey 9 and Captain Skinner, Dr. Mark Harsworth as Dr. Blackburn, Kirsty Harrison as Director Evelyn Hornwright, DJ Reed as Maul, Grey Operative, and Captain Thomas, Daniel Hawthorne as Shadow, Ray Whitty as SODUS, Rob Cunningham as Jason Barron and Private Lawson, Eric Gold as Grey 4, The Technician, The Super Mutant, and Night Shin, Vitriol Plays as Dr. Trillian and Paladin Valdez, Ray Middleton as Commander Johns, Aaron McNamara as Dr. Naomi Harefield, George Krampus as Ares, Don McCormick as Raider Boss Meg, Aaron Atherton as Corporal Jameson, Cherry Pixel as Cherry, Patrick Conway as Fishbones, and Brad Williams as the voice of MODUS. As our third season continues, we'd like to thank our cast, crew, and amazing patrons, our friends from the MODUS Files Discord, and the entire community which continues to support our story. Stay tuned for our next episode, I Am Become Death. Lastly, thank you to all of our subscribers and supporters. God bless the Enclave, and God bless America.
Members, we look forward to your next visit to our little enclave.